Hello, Rose here, and welcome back to KSP, and welcome back to CFC. It is time for CFC Season 6 Rules. After I've taken a nearly 3-month break from KSP and a 2-month break from making videos. Yeah, it's been quite a dry period as of late for HojozVideos. Anyway, you are here not to hear me rant about how much videos I've been making over the last 2 months. You are here to hear the CFC Season 6 rules. So, let's get right into it. With the general rules, first of all. You will have 2 float planes and 1 floating AA platform versus 2 float planes and 1 floating AA platform with a max of 180 parts for the entire team. Which means that, for example here, this inspection aircraft, the HE Charmander Mark 12 B3, this has 74 parts. 74 times 2, that is 75 times 2 is 150. Minus 2 is 148 parts in total for the 2 aircraft that will be featured, and thus we will have quite the parts there to play with for the floating AA platform, which is this, the HCMS Float Guide A4. Now, 74 and 74 is obviously 148, plus 32 parts brings us to the exact maximum parts of 180 parts allowed. So, that means that the craft are completely legal. And unlike Season 4, where I made the mistake of publishing the HG86 Longsword with only 1 engine, and CFC Season 5, where I made the mistake of publishing the aircraft carrier with the wrong ammo, we have in CFC Season 6 aircraft that actually function and that have actually been tested and checked and double checked to see if they meet all the requirements. I'll let you know that originally the float guide had 34 parts, and then when I decided to add it all up in the calculator, I discovered that I was 2 parts over limit, and I decided to remove 2 ammo boxes to compromise. So yeah, quality assurance with CFC, something that hasn't been seen before. The craft must be constructed with DLC-less KSP 1.8.1 and BDAc 1.3.2. KJR Next and AP Plus 26.4 are also allowed. Now, I am running KJR Next in the install, and that is mainly to prevent the post-missile firing disorder, which is the very well-known disorder that most of the recent Hojoz craft have. And when I installed KJR Next, it seemed to fix all the issues that I've been having with post-missile firing disorder. So, that's why I included it in CFC Season 6 rule set, and why I highly recommend you use it too. The objective is to kill the entire team, only then you will win. And with the floating AA platform, it'll be counted out when it no longer can defend itself, that to prevent any probe cores with or tanks attached to them sinking to the bottom and winning the match that way. Because Lord knows I've tried in CFC Season 5. I'm just gonna be honest with that one. No submarines, AI distraction devices or ECMs, which by AI distraction devices I mean, for example, I will quickly build one here. The coupler, and then a weapon manager, and a drone car. Right here, this will be an AI distraction device since it separates, and due to it having a probe core and a weapon manager, it will be seen by the AI as a hostile aircraft by the enemy AI, and I don't want to see that. And any similar devices are not allowed either. ECMs, of course, it's been a standard rule in CFC ever since I discovered them. They aren't allowed since, well, I mean, they're jamming. Well, I guess it can be seen as OP, but CFC, the general rule set, has always been about creating stealth aircraft without ECMs, at least recently. You'll have, of course, the usual 16 slots maximum with 2 slots that can be filled per person. That will be 2 teams and not 2 craft, since 2 craft will be one AA platform and 1 aircraft. And of course that won't be really fair, and that would probably assure that I can't meet the 16 slot requirement. And if I can't meet the 16 slot requirement because I don't have as many submissions, as you know, in past CFC seasons I'll just fail with my own aircraft. But I'm kind of leaning towards having a 12 craft minimum to start the season. That said though, the submission deadline is the 15th of February, which this video will be going out on the 13th of January if everything goes to plan. And I just decided to add 2 extra days just because I just felt like it. Not updating your craft after they've passed inspection, so if I approve them via tech and flight inspections, you can't make any modifications that will improve the aircraft to make sure that it can compete better, as I do not view this as fair, since that means that you can just submit the worst airframe in the entire world after 1 day and basically guarantee yourself a slot in the competition. And I'm not really a fan of that. Drones and cockpits allowed, except for the command seat, because the command seat in past seasons has been something that you can't put a Kerbal in, but nowadays you can. I'm considering allowing it in Season 7, but for now, for Season 6, I haven't tested anything with it, so I will still put it on the ban list. No armor adjusting, or no armor adjusting on part settings, so you can't just do this. It's not allowed. And you can't put armor panels on your craft either, like this, for example. That's not allowed either. All craft must be able to be set up via the break and SAS action group. This is because in CFC Season 5, I've proven myself to be quite incompetent with aircraft setup. And so I figured that making the setup process easier for myself would prevent any shameful reloadings, because I managed to mess up some setup process. Here we have a craft that is still in development. I haven't rounded off the development yet, and here on the SAS action group we have the engines on the SAS action group to make sure that everything will be set up. You can still use the gear action group or any other action group to separate parts that aren't necessarily something that will enhance your fighting capabilities, such as deploying weapon managers or multiple launch rocket systems. I don't want to see that, but you can just decouple floats like this one here on the back of the aircraft, which is there to and has been set up to make sure that it won't just sink into the sea and never be seen again. That is a problem that the Charmander Mark 12 has. The Idori, which is also in development, also has this issue a bit, but not as much. So I decided to not mount any ore tanks on it. By the way, Idori making a comeback this season. That's what I'm planning on anyway. I hope it will be as competitive in Season 4 as it was in Season 4. The action group thing includes the TWS on the AA platform, so that means that, for example, here we have the HMS float guide again. On the brakes you have nothing, but on SAS we have an activation of the radar, which again just makes sure that setup processes have been foolproofed, because I'm quite the fool with setup processes apparently. In case of a tie, the team with the most damage taken loses. So, example, you have one aircraft that has landed in the sea, and the opponent also has one aircraft that's landed in the sea, but the first aircraft mentioned has more damage. For example, it doesn't have any wings, whereas the second aircraft that landed in the sea has pretty much all of its wings. The first aircraft mentioned that had none of its wings will be the losing aircraft, the losing side, since it took more damage. Teams will be set up in the AA platform at 2 kilometers from the buoy, with missiles facing the enemy team. Aircraft will be facing away from the enemy team and will be positioned behind the AA platform. I have a demonstration set up for more clearness next to my buoy, which will be with the inspection aircraft, to demonstrate what I mean exactly by this ruling. That'll make it easier, of course, for you to make any test flights, any test combat conditions for your own aircraft. And this is what I mean. The float guide here with the missiles is facing towards the buoy and would be facing towards the enemy team, which would be 2 kilometers away from the other side of the buoy. And here we have the Charmander Mark 12 B3s, which are set up behind, at least what I would consider behind the AA platform, and facing slightly outwards from each other to make sure that they don't collide with each other. That's basically what I mean by that ruling. The next rule is clipping is allowed without any limits. I don't care what you clip, I don't care how you clip it, I don't care how much you clip. As long as the aircraft is fine and functioning, it's all good by me, it's all approved by me. Now let's move on to the aircraft specific rules. As you've already discovered by that segment shown just now, and pretty much all the aircraft that I've shown here, the aircraft must take off from water, and it will have a minimum size requirement of 1.3 times 1.3 times 1.9 requirement in minimum in the height, width, length configuration shown in the engineer's report. And the maximum will be 6 by 9 by 10 meters, which basically is the rule set of last season, which, by the way, CFC Season 6 only exists to make sure that, well, it is CFC Season 5, but better, and actually corrected and made to be a better season. 12 missiles of any type allowed, with HARMS, HEKVs, PAC-3s and EMP missiles banned. EMP missiles are banned because, well, if they get into a range of 10 meters of the aircraft, basically cripple the entire aircraft, is how I believe that functions. But that means that you can have a aircraft set up like this, Mark 12 B3, set up with 6 anti-air and 6 anti-ground missiles, or for example the Mark 12 C0 set up with 12 anti-air missiles and the cannons doubling as ground strikers. It allows for a lot of different setup choices, and I hope that the difference in strategy will add to the fun and excitement of CFC Season 6. Any equipment needed for the missiles on the aircraft are mandatory. So, for example, here we have AIM-120s launched by radar. So I've mounted a radar on the aircraft, and we have the Hellfires. launched by a laser pod, which I have also installed, the FLIR targeting ball, because these are required to launch the missiles, and that will be all the equipment required on your aircraft. Guns allowed are 3 Vulcans or Vulcan turrets, which should be locked, 4 M230s, which should also be locked, 2 Gauss, 12 50 cals or 6 50 cal turrets, which should also be locked. You can mix guns, but you aren't allowed to put in more guns than the lowest amount of the 2 guns you're mixing. For example, the B3 is mixing Vulcans with M230s, so it can only use 3 guns, since the max gun limit for the M230 is 3 and the max gun limit for the Vulcan is 4. What I mean by locking the turret is by putting the max pitch, minimum pitch and yaw range to 0 in the aircraft configuration. But that way we don't have any functioning turrets. I only want locked guns on the aircraft. Maximum of 4 flare and 4 chaff boxes for each plane, which again, this is the Mark 12 B3, which sports 4 chaffs on the vertical stabilizer, and are 4 flares on the vertical stabilizer and 4 chaffs underneath near the engine, which is the max allowed flare and chaff boxes. Weapon manager and AI are mandatory, but that makes sense, and everyone would be putting a weapon manager and AI on their aircraft. Separating parts of the aircraft is allowed, but only if they do not contain any offensive or defensive capabilities, which is something I mentioned earlier. You can separate, for example, here these ore tanks made to have the aircraft point up in the sky, or for example floats that make your aircraft, well, float. But I don't want to see anything like a multiple rocket launcher or separating drone aircraft, for example. Something that I would like to add is that the RTG is no longer a required part on the aircraft, or the AA platform for that matter. You can choose any generation, any electric generation that you want. So the RTG is no longer a required part, and if we go quickly inside of this aircraft, I think you will notice that it is RTG-less, yet still complies with competition rules. So yeah, that was a request for Season 5, and well, I've removed it from the mandatory parts list, since, well, it was basically a remainder of old PFC rule sets that I based my CFC rule sets on when I started CFC. So the AA's platform-specific rules then. The TWS and Weapon Manager are mandatory, while the Surface AI is banned. So let me quickly shut you up here. You can't put an AI Surface module or an AI Pilot flight computer on your AA platform. That is because they would be intelligent, and I don't want intelligent AA platforms. I only want them as dumb as I can get them, while still being able to fire. The AA platform is not allowed any propulsion, which again plays into the as dumb as I can get them requirement. 6 Vulcan turrets and 4 missiles of any type allowed. HARMs, HEKVs, PAC-3s and EMP missiles are banned. So that's basically the same rule set on the aircraft, except only with 4 missiles. And you can have 4 unlocked turrets, since this is an AA platform, and well, its main job is to AA. So it is perfectly allowed to have these max pitch, min pitch and yaw range requirements set to default, which should make it a turret. And as you can see here, I have mounted 4 AIM-120s on the float guide as AA defenses. But for example, if you can get Hellfires to work, I'll just name a random missile, to take out the opponent AA platforms, just do it. Or if you can get cruise missiles to work. I've tried that personally, and I haven't had any luck with it. But if you can get cruise missiles to work, I'll be very excited to see that. And the equipment needed for the missiles on the AA platform is mandatory. So as you'll notice, I have a radar mounted here to assist the launching of the AMRAAM missiles. But what I just thought of is that the TWS radar would probably just do that fine. So basically a redundant part, but I don't care. No countermeasures allowed on the AA platform, so that means I don't want to see any chaff, flare or smoke boxes on the float kite or any similar AA platforms. The AA platform is counted as destroyed once scanned along with the Phantom air attacks, which is something I've mentioned before. And I'll just simply mention again because this is the AA specific part of the rule set. The AA platform is not allowed to separate into multiple pieces. I want your AA platform to remain in one single piece, since I can't really think of anything that would help you if you separate your AA platform into multiple pieces. And if you would, again, that would probably require any offensive or defensive capabilities, which are not allowed by the rule set. And finally, which is something I will also repeat again, the submission deadline is the 15th of February. And you can find all the inspection aircraft, the craft that I will use for flight inspections on CFC Season 6 in the description, which, as aforementioned, is the HC Charmander Mark 12 B3 and this HCMS Float Kite A4. I hope you have fun building your aircraft and your AA platforms, and I hope that I'll see plenty of submissions for CFC Season 6. As I said earlier, I hope this will be a very good season. And I hope to see you participate and maybe even win CFC Season 6. I hope you enjoyed the announcement, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you'll enjoy my slightly modified outro, which features the new logo of HojozVideos. Here's BDAc with Voice Pop.